All right, now let's see how we can work with selections. Once again, I've simplified this list view by removing the grouped items. So let's see how we can work with selected items. We've got a couple of events here. One is item tapped. I'm going to let Xamarin Studio generate a default event handler. There you go. We also have another event called item selected. So let's see what's the difference between these two events. In item selected, we have an argument here called E, which gives us information about the selected item. So E.selected item, look at the type of this property. It's an object. Now, because we have bound our list view to a list of contacts, each item in the list is a contact object, which means I can get this selected item and cast it as a contact and store the result here. Now I have access to all properties of this contact object. So I'm going to display an alert here, set the title to selected, and for the message, I'm going to display contact.name. And finally, an OK button. Now for the tapped event, again, the E argument has a property called item, which gives us access to the item that is currently tapped. So we're going to cast this to a contact and store the result in a contact object. Once again, display alert. I'm going to set the title to tapped and display contact.name with an OK button. Let's run the application. So I'm going to tap Mosh. Okay, we got the selected event, but not the tapped event. Now, if I tap it again, this time we get the tapped event, but not the selected event. I'm going to tap one more time. So the first time we tap an item, the selected event will be fired. And anytime after we tap that item, the tapped event will be fired. Now I'm going to tap John. So this is the first time, and that's why we get the selected event. Tap again. Now we get the tapped event. Now, which event you want to work with depends on the purpose of your application, but quite often we use the selected event. A real-world example of this is when the user taps an item to select it, perhaps we want to navigate them to a second page where they can see more detail about that item. Now, we're going to look at navigation in the next section, but as far as list view is concerned, what I want you to take away from this lecture is how to handle the tapped and selected event, which is pretty easy. Now, what if you want to disable selection? In item selected event handler, we simply set list view dot selected item to null. Let's run the application. So I'm going to tap Mosh. We only got the tapped event, and note that the item has no longer the gray background, so it's not in the selected state. Now in this case, if I didn't handle the tapped event, which basically means commenting out these two lines here, this is how the list would behave. So tap, look. So that's what I mean by disabling selection. Next, I'm going to show you how to display context actions.